First drive in my new, to me, Jeep Gladiator Mojave. And how does it compare to my previous Jeep Gladiator? Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to Robotive JT. That's right, we have the new Jeep Gladiator Mojave. We're taking a cruise in it right now. And I thought it'd be a great time to kind of compare it to the Jeep Gladiator Sport S that I had before. A little bit of background. This is my third Jeep Gladiator. I had a Jeep Gladiator Sport S in a Gobi color. This is how we'll differentiate them. And it had that horrible check engine light, auto stop failure. I got rid of it. I traded it. An opportunity came up to trade it off for another almost identical Jeep Gladiator Sport S. It was the white one, which is what I've actually gotten rid of and gotten this one. So another opportunity arose where I could trade off the white one and get this Schnazberry Jeep Gladiator Mojave. And if you don't know, I like the Jeep Gladiator Mojave. I've talked about getting one numerous times on the channel, so I finally have one. What is this? It is used. It's a 2021, and it has, let's see, 1,834 miles on it. So it's basically brand new. Barely broken in. It's in excellent condition. And I love it. I love this color too. I think it's an awesome color for the truck. So let's get to the meat of it. That's the history lesson. How does it differ from the Jeep Gladiator Sport S? Well, obviously there's some aesthetic and some suspension things. I mean, it's Schnazberry red versus white. It does have the Fox suspension on it. It is the Mojave. It has a lift on it of about, I think it's 1.5 to 2 inches. I don't recall off the top of my head. I probably should have looked that up before, but I'm driving now. So it is higher up in the air. It has the Falcon Wild Peak, I believe they're MT, mud tires, mud terrain. So it has a more aggressive tire on it. Now, one thing that I noticed when I was checking it out this morning is the tire pressures were high. It calls for 37. So if you're running a 285/70 R17, tire, 37 seems to be what it calls for, at least from the manufacturer. I usually run 35 to 37 anyway. So I lowered the pressures. They were actually 40 plus. Obviously a much firmer ride at that pressure. So I lowered them to 37. That's what I'm running right now. No doubt they will lose a little bit of air, as the bigger tires always seem to do. Otherwise, on the interior, this has the axle locker and I guess an off-road plus switch. I'm not exactly sure what that is. I'm going to have to look into that a little bit more. But it does have that. I did not have that on my other one. And the other thing, right down where that is, it's down below if you're not familiar with it, it has a spot where I could put the auxiliary switches in, which is something I'm definitely going to look at doing. I couldn't do that on my other one because it wouldn't fit. I didn't have the right console area, but I have it on this one. Does have the bigger radio screen in it, same as my white one did. I like that. I probably would have changed it out had it not. And then, of course, all of the Mojave stuff. You can see the Mojave orange back there. We've got all that stuff, all the orange bezels, all that stuff. You can check it out in more depth if you want. I did an introduction video earlier when I first got the truck, so I'm not going to delve deep into that. Now, let's talk about the power. How does it feel? It feels to me to be just slightly, and it might all be in my head, but just slightly slower than the Jeep Gladiator Sport S that I had. And if it is, and I'm not saying it is, could be in my head, it's probably because of weight. We have more suspension on it. We have more supports underneath, I believe, in the frame. So it is a little bit heavier, I would think, than the Jeep Gladiator Sport S was. That might account a little bit for it. Otherwise, it's identical. I had bigger tires on that truck as well, so pulling around the extra weight and stuff is really minimal when comparing the two. What about ride quality? Let me tell you, everything in the Jeep Gladiator Mojave is stiffer. Everything. The suspension is stiffer. The steering is stiffer. Everything is stiffer. I think moving the seats back and forth are even stiffer. I can tell you the headrests are stiffer. I put some grab handles on. They're orange to match the theme of the truck. And those things were kind of a bear to get out. You know, you push the button in and you pull them out. Kind of difficult compared to the Sport S. I don't know why. Can't believe that's inherent to the Mojave. I think it's just this truck itself. Every one of those are designed pretty much the same, I think. Otherwise, on the interior, I don't really have a lot of other differences. I think everything else is pretty much the same as I look around, so I don't really notice anything that's a heck of a lot different. I did change the Freedom panels out. I put the Sunrider soft top in. There's a video on that, of course, as well. But I wanted to have that because it's just so much easier to unlatch it on both sides and then pop it back rather than have to screw with the Freedom panels. And by the way, let me add something. You know, I've talked before about storing those Freedom panels and how you could damage them, they're fragile. Well, when I went to pull the ones for the white Jeep Gladiator to put back on it, because she wanted those on, not the Sunrider, I discovered one of them had a chip. And they're white underneath. And of course, it was right on the lip, the edge of the Freedom panel itself, so blaringly obvious. I touched it up with a little black paint, and then I actually gave her the Freedom panels from the Mojave. They fit. They're interchangeable between the Sport S and the Mojave. So I actually gave her those so she wouldn't have a chip in hers. Fair is fair. And I wasn't going to use them anyway. They're actually in storage now. I don't know how it got chipped, but I'll tell you that moving them off and on, given that mine were just being stored, just shows me that it's worth it to have the Sunrider soft top so that you don't damage your Freedom panels. And I think given as fragile as apparently they are, that's going to happen if you're constantly taking them off and on and sticking them somewhere, either in the bed, in your garage, wherever it might be. You're probably going to chip or damage yours eventually. Just a word to the wise, I guess. As far as fuel economy, let's check that real quick. I'm curious about that myself. 12.3 miles per gallon. Definitely not a hypermiler. This truck was driven mostly around town, so it doesn't surprise me that the fuel economy is a bit low. I expect that it's gonna go up. I really think it's gonna be somewhere in the 14, 15 mile per gallon range. Again, it's not a hypermiler for sure, but it's a truck. You knew what you were getting when you bought it, right, Rob? You did. So anyway, that's just a quick rundown comparing the two. I really did like the white Gladiator Sport S. There's nothing wrong with that truck. I never had any issues with it, and I really kind of hated to see it go, to be honest. Leave a comment. Let me know if you've switched out Gladiators, maybe moved up in trim level. What did you go with and why? I'd be curious. Also, real quick, I do have 2 additional channels. Rob Motive, all about the Toyota Tacoma, and Rob Motive MT, all about mini trucks. Currently, the Hyundai Santa Cruz. Check them out, and if you're interested, please consider subscribing. Thanks for watching. Stay safe out there. Bye.